Welcome to Thrive Radio. I'm your host, Amy Montgomery, entrepreneur and digital marketing agency owner. Today, my guest is Laure Fravel. She's a personal brand strategist, coach, and brand storyteller. She's igniting leaders and entrepreneurs to be seen, profitable, and impactful. Laure, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be
I'm
here.
excited for our podcast today to dive into stories. You reached an incredible level of success in your own business and your coaching business. Can you share a little bit of how you got to where you are today?
Sure. I spent about 20 years before doing what I'm doing now. I spent 20 years in TV and media. So I worked for National Geographic, Discovery. Some of them bled into more brand marketing, for brand storytelling, for Amazon, for Intel. So it spanned, the whole gamut from documentary storytelling and TV to really brand marketing and corporations. I did some storytelling for NGOs, a lot of videos for them. And no matter who I was working for, it all came down to every time I was tasked with find one character who can tell this story, who can, the audience can really resonate with. So after 20 years of doing that, I think I got a little tired of the corporate world and the demands. And, I had plateaued kind of what I was doing and where I could go, unless I kind of wanted to go into a more, less hands-on executive role. So I struck out on my own and became really passionate about helping individuals tell their story, because I saw such the power that an individual has, whether it be making millions for corporations or, raising hundreds of thousands for an NGO or what it be.
So how do you help leaders and entrepreneurs show up as their true self?
I really believe marketing has changed so much over, even the past decade, where, storytelling sounds cliche. And you can even say, it's somewhat cliche to say we all have a story to tell. Everyone's story matters, but I think I've seen it, like it is true. And I think we have so much digital noise out there these days. We're inundated with so much information. We have so many choices of who to hire, what to buy, that really it's the people who are showing up with, you can say authenticity, vulnerability, whatever you want to call it. But I really think it comes down to, if you show forth your true personality and a perspective, have an opinion on something, stand for something, that's when you get noticed. That's when you're not just another business consultant or another coach. That's when you can connect with people. They have something to connect with. So you might turn some people away, but the people you connect with, you're just going to attract even that many more of those people you can help the most.
So when it comes to stories, how do you choose which ones to share?
I think that kind of goes back to, it's what I was just saying about authenticity and vulnerability. I agree. People get really tripped up on how much to share, how much not to share. I don't want to share that. I think what you have to keep in perspective is you don't have to share everything. I think it's every person has their own comfort level, and some people want to divulge all, some people don't. But I think it really just comes down to being true to your showing up with personality. I think, especially if you've been in the corporate world at all, especially for any amount of time, for decades, we've been taught to put on this corporate facade and act a very certain specific way. And I think people nowadays want to see your personality. So I think it's really about owning who you are. And then, like I was just saying, showing some perspective. So, have an opinion on something. In that sense, you can divulge a lot about your life. I have 2 kids. Do I post about my kids? Do I not when it comes to business? And what I always do is, as long as you can bring it back to your story and what you stand for, then I think it's totally applicable. So I'll give you an example that might be better. Just the other day, I posted something on LinkedIn. My children were adding money to a little travel jar that they have. They're into saving to go. One wants to go to Africa. The other one wants to go to Thailand. And they're fighting over where we're going. And they're adding like every penny they get. And my one daughter, dog walks, and she's putting some of her money in there. And I thought it was cute. And that's what was inspiring me that day. So I decided to write a post on it. But I brought it back to my business. Here are 2 kids saving for a common purpose. One minute, they're like, the older one is tormenting the younger one, and she's attacking her and punching her. And then the next minute, there's this common purpose that brings them together, which is their little travel jar. And I kind of brought that back to, isn't that what all businesses and teams are built around, is knowing your purpose and getting together around that common purpose. That's a perfect example of, I'm sharing a bit about my personal life, but I kind of wrap it into what I stand for in my business.
Okay, that's really good because I think that a lot of times, at least for me, I have struggled with that. Like, okay, which story? Like, I've got a million, and don't we all, right? You
Yeah,
get in your head, you have all these different stories you could possibly tell. And which ones do you tell? Why do you tell them? And I think it's easy to get in your head about it instead of, really being focused on whatever that main goal of your business or your purpose or whatever it is that you're focusing on is.
and I think it starts with getting super clear on, who am I? What's my unique value? How does all of my experience and expertise and my passion and purpose tie together to address the needs of my audience? And I think that's where, the needs of your audience, if you drew three little circles and it was like, here's your expertise and your experience, all those decades of, work. And then, kind of your passion, what just lights you up. And then that third circle is the needs or the struggles of your audience, what they want to be feeling even more so. And where all three of those intersect is kind of where you form that story. And getting really clear on that, first and foremost, I think once you know all of that, I think it takes effort to pause and dig into that. And I think it takes outside perspective. But once you're super clear on your story, then it makes everything so much easier. So you have those little daily moments throughout your day, which you're like, "Ooh, I'd love to write about this. This is inspiring me. Why am I going to post this? Okay, how does this relate back to my story and what I'm putting out into the world?" It just, I think, helps. It gives you a lot more confidence. It gives you kind of like a North Star or guardrails as to what to be putting out into the world.
Yeah, definitely. I like that a lot. I think that gives a really good explanation. And thinking even in my own business of, how I do digital marketing, I focus in helping coaches and consultants. Well, why? Because those are the same people that help me in my darkest hour and transform my
Yeah.
life, and I want to support that. Right.
Hmm.
So yeah, I love that.
And I often tell people there's kind of your story and then come up with like four main talking points that you espouse in your business and that you want to share with the world. So maybe, for like you, maybe one of those talking pillars is sharing your personal journey. So you would share a lot about maybe your struggles in your business or the behind the scenes. And then another one just might be, educating coaches on a struggle that you see happening all the time. So I also advocate that. Come up with these kind of four talking pillars, which also help you relate all of your tiny moments throughout the day into little stories that still relate to your audience.
So how can we own our story and make it part of our brand? How do you do that?
Yes, I often say, know your story, own it, and scream it to the world. I think once you get really clear on it, then I think it takes a bit of courage and you need to put it out there. So you need to share your perspective, you need to share your opinion. Say for me, I'm really big into elevating women's voices, globally. I put articles out there that support women in business and she session, but yet I still get male clients. I think a lot of people are worried about sharing a definitive perspective or really, niching down into kind of their passion because they're afraid they're going to turn away business and not get as many clients. And I think that's just the opposite. I think it's when you share that perspective. So I think owning it really comes down to how are you going to put it out there? Where is your audience that you're trying to target? Where do they live? And how are you going to get yourself in front of them and sharing your perspective and building yourself up as that authority and having credibility?
So what's the difference between your story and trying to prove yourself?
That's a great question. I like that. I think proving yourself is hard work and it doesn't resonate with people. I don't think people want to hear you espousing all of your greatness. That to me is proving yourself. I think when you get clear on your story, it's a little bit more about this is who I am and this is how I help people. And this is why I help people. It's just coming from a much more genuine, heartfelt place, I think. And I think people, especially nowadays in marketing, they can see that. They can see right through someone trying too hard or trying to be someone they're not. When you say prove yourself, I feel like that's someone often who is just trying a little too hard to push something that maybe they're not or they don't want to be.
Yeah. Or they don't have enough confidence in themselves.
And I think we have so many narratives from growing up, especially as women. We're told to be modest and lift others up before ourselves. I think even just, over the years in the corporate world, we've adopted these narratives, which aren't necessarily our own narratives. And I think that's where your personal branding is so valuable. It's stopping, pausing, being like, whose narratives am I playing out? What do I want to be telling to the world? And what have I adopted of other people's stories?
And it's kind of almost like you kind of go through this process of first, when you're first learning everything, you kind of just do what everyone else is doing. You get enough knowledge and understanding of going through whatever skill it is that you do, you get comfortable enough with it where you start to make your own opinions about things.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think also if you're running your own business, you've typically often been in corporate world or another job for a while. You climb that corporate ladder and then you hop off and then suddenly you're climbing another ladder to get your business going. But there's rarely the pause to stop and think, okay, wait, what do I stand for? What is my unique value? That's everything that's going to make you stand out as a business owner.
Can you share some of your client success stories with us?
A lot of people who have usually had some form of career or corporate career, and they usually want to do something more fulfilling. They have all this experience and this expertise and passion that, they still want to make money, but they want to do it more on their terms. So usually they've been in business for anywhere from 1 to 5 years, and they look and sound like every other business consultant. Or one in particular, she was in a fabulous PR agency, one of the national PR agencies for almost 2 decades. And she felt like it was, for lack of better, just a big boys club. And she's like, I'm sick of this. I'm starting my women owned PR agency, boutique firm. And she ran into the same thing, the frustration of like, I have an amazing experience. Why am I not getting the traction I had hoped and expected? And it was pulling together her story, making her not sound like every other PR consultant out there, but she had this passion for crisis management. So we talked a lot about her bringing that out and into her messaging. And she's kicking butt right now. She's doing amazing. And I think just the confidence also that snowballs from really getting clear on your story and what you stand for as well is a big part of it too.
So, what's your truth that has gotten you this far in your journey?
I use this often. There's this quote by Helen Keller, life is an adventure or nothing at all. And I think that's probably my truth is, being an entrepreneur is a journey. There's always, you have to embrace change and constantly kind of reinvent and really rethink things. And to me, that's what keeps life interesting and exciting, both life and business, is always having that kind of open mindset, going for it, being a little daring, and realizing it's not an end goal to quote unquote success, but it's a journey. And that's what makes the journey fun.
I like that. So, if you were able to give yourself one piece of advice when you first started out, what would it be?
Probably going back to kind of what I was talking about with the quote is just get out there and do it. I think I held myself back a lot by over analyzing, rewriting my copy for the 100th time, tweaking it again, worried about my social media posts, where I think overthinking, perfectionism, and not just putting it out there held me back a lot until I realized or got over that. Because also putting all that information out there when it's not perfect is also great market research. You get feedback on everything you put out there and you see what resonates with your audience. You see what audience you're attracting and, oh, wait, I'm attracting the wrong audience. I need to shift this. It's a journey.
Yeah, it definitely is. So, if there's someone listening that would like to work with you, what's the best way to contact you?
I'm most active on LinkedIn, And I'm also at laurafravel.com. I hold a roundtable once a month, the second Thursday of every month as well, for women entrepreneurs and executives. Some people are still within a corporation who want to just get tips and tricks and community around putting yourself out there, building that story, building your brand. So it's a fun way to drop in and learn a little bit more about me and the community.
Perfect. I'll put all those links down below. Thank you so much for coming on
Thank
and
you.
sharing about your expertise and the power of story. I think it's something that so many are trying to grasp. I think that the information that you've given is really helpful.
Oh, thank you, Amy. I appreciate you having me on.
Yes. And if you want more information about our podcast and upcoming shows, you can visit acalltothrive.com. Thank you, everyone, for listening and have a wonderful week.